Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Mike Shea, your Florida business broker. We're going to talk about rules of thumb for fitness centers and gyms. So these are the benchmarks you need to consider when buying or selling, and things to consider are, let's start at the top. So gyms come in a wide variety of shapes and sizes, and the business changes. The trend lines in fitness change pretty regularly. Circuit training, weight training, CrossFit, swimming, tennis courts, etc. The one thing you need to understand is that it is a capital intensive business, and it takes a good 12, 16 months to break even after you've made that capital investment. So as a consequence of that, the speed at which you grow membership is incredibly vital. And that is a ubiquitous number that you need to kind of look at your depreciation costs and your carrying costs of all that equipment you just bought, and how many bodies you need to have on a monthly payroll basis or a monthly draw basis to cover expenses plus payroll. So the quality and the quantity of equipment matters. There's a strange trend line across genders where people are now bleeding one way or the other, but there is still some pretty strong barriers with regard to social norms in terms of who views what more importantly. For example, women tend to not want to get bulky. They tend to orient towards cardio and aerobics and circuit training types of equipment, while younger men tend to want to bulk up and they look towards, heavy weights, squat machines, Smith machines, presses, etc. So depending upon who your customer is going to be, you want to, build your portfolio of equipment against that. So pay particular attention down here to the age demographics on who's using gyms, and then the demographics on split of equipment, and then these numbers, what the profit margins are, what the revenue per employee is, what the average number of staff is, and what the wage is. This $14,000 wage is important because it tends to be part-time work for people, and there tends to be turnover. That is the hourly rate. That is not the rate of trainers, which tends to be private booking money, and then they pay a split back to the gym. Smaller gyms with private boutique trainers can be profitable. I know a guy in town who literally rents out about 1,000 feet, and he's got a circuit and a methodology, and he has private clients on a draw, and tends to do maybe $100,000 a year just doing private training with no support staff whatsoever and by appointment basis. 70 to 100% of annual sales tends to be, these are the benchmarks for rules of thumb, 70 to 100% of annual sales, 2 to 3 times SD&E plus inventory. I'm not a big fan of the inventory. That's not the equipment. That is the product on the shelf that's retailable, t-shirts, smoothie stuff, etc., etc. 5 times EBIT or 3 to 4 times EBITDA. That is size specific. You won't see that on smaller businesses. 1 times annual revenue is a baseline. The multiples vary by size. So, a small shop, doing $200,000 is not going to get a 3 to 4 times EBITDA number. Some key elements when you're growing your business, you want to make sure new members are assessed with a trainer. That's more about making the customer sticky and welcome, and getting them to have a good experience, because the quit rate in gyms is pretty dramatic. And going up here to this capital intensive variable, you want to make sure your customers stick with you. If you get them to stick over a year, they tend to stick forever. But you got to make sure new people to athletics are comfortable in the environment and are feeling welcome. So make sure you bring people and onboard them properly. The closing ratio for first-time visits is 30%, 70% within 30 days of closing, and then 65% total closing. Over here is your baseline profitability numbers: 8.6, wages are 31%, purchases 20%, depreciation 7, marketing 10, rent and utilities 15.5, and then other expenses 7%. The one thing I really want to point out is the type of equipment you have and the variable maintenance costs that can be ongoing. Cardio, Stairmasters, those things that have a lot of moving parts, they do break down. This type of static equipment, the weights, the benches, they tend not to break down. And then the consumable products here, pads, weight balls, mats, those things tear up pretty quickly and have to be maintained. So this is everything you want to know about rules of thumb for buying a gym. case specific, I can do a valuation for you. Reach out to me at 321-287-0349 or email me at mike@tworld.com.